Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Caffeinated Librarians. I'm your host, Lewis, along with my co-hosts, Joe and Simona. Today we are discussing our final comics pick, my pick. I picked this comic. Well, first, I guess I'll tell you the name of it. It is Stray Bullets.
By David Lapham.
By David Lapham.
It's the first volume, which is subtitled Innocence of Nihilism.
Innocence of Nihilism. Which, if you didn't know, nihilism, because I didn't have to look it up, but I did, means like when things don't really matter, right?
It's a belief that that nothing matters.
Yeah.
That's a very simplistic definition.
Yeah.
Read Nietzsche if you're more interested.
Yeah. But it was cool. So I don't really read comics. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned that before. On this, I've enjoyed most of the ones that we've read, with the exception of the ones that Simona picks.
Understandable.
You like Sailor Moon.
Oh, was that yours? All right, yeah, I did. I enjoyed that. So this one, I looked for something that I thought I would like. So I looked for something that was kind of more grounded in realism and had a crime premise. And this was on everybody's list. Everything that I read about like a comic that you should read that's grounded in realism and is like a crime focus. Everyone said this. And I had never heard of it before, but we gave it a shot, and now we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, no, this is a very acclaimed book of the 90s. I said that like it's like a cult book of the 90s. Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, in its
very
first year won an Eisner Award, which is like the comic book award for those unaware. Yeah, named after Will Eisner. And he wrote The Spirit and created the term graphic novel.
Really?
Yes.
Thank you, Will Eisner.
Yeah, his book, A Contract with God, was the first one to be billed as a graphic novel.
Oh. That sounds epic.
I believe it's just like about like a tenement building in Brooklyn. Yeah.
All right. I like it. So, this is a very pulpy crime drama.
Yes.
It has each issue, not volume.
Yes.
Each issue is its own story. Each characters kind of show up in each one. It's let's just start. Let's just go through the issues.
Yeah. Sure.
So issue 1 starts us off with Joey and
Frank. Yeah.
They are going somewhere to bury a dead body.
That was actually the issue that I found to be the most interesting.
Really?
Yes. There was just something about it, and it was... But anyway, I don't mean to say too much. But
Pop it!
Yeah, please.
It was also very visceral in how disturbed I was by these two people who... I'm assuming they're hitmen, or, they work for someone that they keep on referencing, and one of them is very young.
Yeah,
and kind of very impressionable, and obviously mentally disturbed on a deep level.
Yeah, it's brought up. Joey, the younger one, has not killed anyone before this.
Yeah.
So he is really like upset.
Yeah. Yeah.
Joey also, for someone that hasn't killed anybody before, gets it out of the way a lot in this issue. He's like, I haven't done this yet, but I have a taste for it now.
Yeah.
So it's basically just Frank and Joey driving in this car. Mm-hmm. What I really liked about this is just how now obviously I spoiler alert, I don't know anybody in the criminal underworld. I wish I did.
Spoiler?
I wish I did, but I don't. Well, I'm just the public perception of me is probably like a bad boy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they think
I get that. I get that.
You're at the Sopranos poker game, exactly. So they bankrupt people.
Yeah. But from what I have seen in watching a lot of TV shows and movies, I liked how the conversation just seemed so natural and seemed to flow, and they were speaking like what I imagine people in the criminal underworld actually spoke like. Like, it's kind of like off-putting.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of very gross language used in this book, and you never get the sense the author's delighting in any of it.
Yeah, no.
It really comes across as like, oh, this is meant to kind of make your skin crawl. Like, there's a really horrible passage where Frank, the older one, and the far grosser of the two, is like, Joey has killed a cop to protect him and Frank, and Joey's freaking out, and he's like, "Am I a bad person now? Because bad people don't deserve no love," which stuck with me. I like that line. I wrote it down over here. But and Frank starts telling the story about how his dad in Korea, he killed so many people. He killed men, women, children, and of course he's using some very awful words to describe Koreans. And he's like, and when he got home, they pinned a medal on him. He was defending the country. You're defending the country, Joey. Which obviously bit of a blaring political metaphor there, but like it does kind of bring up like, okay, so like there's cases where like where murder is celebrated, and it kind of I think this book's very against violence.
Yeah.
But like Simona said, the violence feels very visceral.
Yeah.
In this, and like it really hits you. Like I don't know.
Yeah, and I think the violence feels visceral. The violence also feels, sometimes when I'm looking at like a superhero thing or something like that, like you're not really looking at the violence. The violence in this is realistic. I mean, it's like, when he shoots the police officer, you're kind of like while you don't really, there's not like gore. I wouldn't say it was gory.
No, the book's in black and white too, so like it's not. I think this book rides a fine line, but I don't think it ever really goes into the realm of like exploitation of these things.
Yeah, one of the reviews on at least on Hoopla, on the back cover, was like it's violent without becoming voyeuristic.
Yeah, that's a great description.
Yeah, so and then Joey, who later on in this, they Frank and Joey stop at a diner. And Frank is just chatting it up with another customer. They're putting gas in the car or something. And they're looking in the other guy's trunk. Joey is still just reeling from the fact that you just murdered somebody, let alone murdered a police officer. And sees the trunk open. He thinks that they're looking at the dead body in the trunk. So then he goes and murders that guy.
Everybody in this gas station is dying.
Yeah.
Now.
And then you got to put out the rest of them because they saw them.
Which does lead to the very darkly funny image of them in the car and just like 10 dead bodies crammed in the back seat.
Yeah. And then and then Joey says the thing about Harry.
Yeah. There's a lot of mention of this character, Harry, who we don't see in this volume, who is the shadowy figure who seems to be the ultimate gangster, just like very, very cold-blooded man, and everybody seems to be working for him all the time. And they talk a little more, and eventually they go to dump off the bodies in a river, and Frank starts insulting the woman who is the first dead body, and Joey is very upset. And blows his head off. Yeah. And then there's a really, really interesting moment where Joey's kind of talking, and he's like, I think like men should treat their girlfriends and wives like princesses. And he's like, I wrote down this bit. He probably didn't know either. He treats his wife bad. I don't think guys know these things. And it kind of, I don't know. It highlights that this kid has never had like any kind of positive relationship modeled for him, which is really, really sad.
Yeah, and it's something that we see in the following issues.
Yes.
We see Joey as a young boy. We see his relationship with his mother and kind of her troubles also. In the second issue, we are introduced to Spanish Scott.
Yes.
And I gotta tell you something about Spanish Scott.
I don't think he's Spanish.
He does not look Spanish, does he?
No, they make a crack that it's because he likes tacos.
Yes, that's right, yeah. But definitely not Spanish. But, so, all right, I'm going to give you guys a little. I was probably like, I don't know, maybe like 10 years old. And me and my sister used to spend the summers in Rhode Island with our
Are you
cousins.
about to drop that you saw a murder happen?
No murders. No murders. But my mom came to pick us up, and we're on our way back to New York, and we stop at a gas station, and we're waiting, and I see, and I see this guy in this car ahead of us, and he steps out of the car, and he just starts taking a piss. And I remember, I'm a young kid, so I'm like, I think I pointed and I said, like, ew. The guy heard me, turned around, and starts laughing. I thought of that guy when I saw Spanish Scott.
Yeah, he's got that vibe for sure.
Yeah. There's a part in a later issue where Spanish Scott runs over a guy with his car, and one of the characters, Orson, sees Spanish Scott, and as he's driving away, realizing he just got seen. Actually, Spanish Scott gets caught doing this murders a lot.
Yeah.
He's really bad at this.
But only by people who won't rat, which is very lucky guy.
Yeah. But as he's driving away, he gives just this sinister, sadistic smile.
There's a lot of evil smiles in this book.
So in this one, when he is murders the guy you think is his friend, I forget his name.
Not important. Outside Star Wars, to let you know, it's 1977 now.
Yeah.
It's not 1997 anymore.
Yeah. Ginny, who is probably one of the few very likable characters in this, witnesses him.
Virginia
committing a
Applejack.
murder.
What a great name.
Awesome name. Yeah.
And she's a little kid, and this deeply disturbs her. And her sister tells her to just forget about it and try not to think about it.
What terrible advice.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, really, really evil advice.
Yeah.
And Ginny's not the same after this.
No.
And in school, she's pretty mercilessly bullied. And she lashes out and she stabs a kid with a pencil in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And a bit of violence that is real nasty because it's like, oh, damn, that's real.
Yeah. That shook me a little bit, actually.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't expecting that.
Mm.
I don't think you ever really expect to see violence amongst kids.
Yeah, but it happens, and like often in ways like that, where it's like, okay, like the kid's gonna be fine, but it's still just like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they call her to the principal's office, and they have a talk with the parents, and her mom's like, how could they blame this on me? And her dad is just like, hey, you're gonna be all right, kid.
Yeah.
And they also bring up her writing, which I do think comes in is my running theory, at least, because I've only read 6 issues of this. So apologies if this is not the case or if this is blaringly obvious. But her writing really resembles some of the Amy Racecar issue later on.
Yeah.
And that issue is also titled How I Spent My Summer Vacation.
Yeah.
And they mention, it's like, oh, this was an essay on her summer vacation. She's talking about robbing banks and killing people. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, I did not put that together until you mentioned it. And it makes a lot of sense. Because, I mean, I very much liked that issue, but I was kind of like, I don't really know how this fits in. But then when you mentioned that, I was like, okay, I guess, I guess that's how it fits in.
And then a bunch of on Halloween, the kid she stabbed and his buddies get their revenge and really mess her up.
Yeah.
And she is left with a big scar on her face for the rest of the book.
Yeah. Now, one of the things, and it could have been that I'm reading it on a computer, so maybe it would have been better like in an actual book. But and maybe it was intentional, but I had a hard time like seeing what was happening in that scene.
It was dark, and I think it was intentionally chaotic.
Yeah, kind of like it reminds me. There's a part later on there's a few parts later on where Joey's mother is having a party, and there's a scene that gets pretty chaotic, and it's very dark.
Yeah.
The background's black, and there's just stuff going on, and there's like words all over the place and everything like that.
Yes.
So it kind of reminds me
that's
of
when
that.
Orson's high, right? And everything's kind of blurring.
Yeah. So I think that yeah. So I guess it was obviously it was done intentionally. I don't think anything is ever accidental. But I did have a tough time seeing what was happening in that. But I guess that's what they want you to do.
At least that was my impression.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like how Ginny's parents are depicted. The mom is sort of like the mom's kind of a nervous wreck and putting it all on her daughter, and the dad is like a very sweet guy, but maybe not the best parent.
Yeah.
He's kind of bad at like holding things, like having consequences. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of that has to do with guilt because he's a truck driver who's away a lot of the time, and like I don't know, it's just a very well realized family dynamic in this span of like not very many pages.
Yeah. Yeah, very realistic because you can be a loving. We see it all the time. You can be a loving parent, but you're not necessarily. It's not necessarily always what's best for your kid.
Yeah.
And then you see the total other end of the spectrum too, with her mother who is abusive.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It develops into just full on abuse.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're not, because you're siding with, well, not that you should really ever side with, not that you should side with the mother that's abusing, but it's just interesting to see the kind of both ends of the spectrum, and there's just there's that family dynamic is a very real dynamic, I think, in a lot of people's households. The next issue is the one with the two teen boys, not teen boys, but
yes, yeah, Sonny and Led.
Yeah.
Sonny, who's the psycho of the two, and Led, who is the respectable one of the two.
Yeah.
And they're two petty criminals, and they have a party at their place. And, yeah.
I loved Led and Nina.
Yes.
I really liked that. I felt like they actually like it was kind of, I don't know, that felt like real yet cinematic to me, like kind of like these two people that are in this like kind of crappy situation, but they find each other and they're like, let's get out of here. I really would love to see how the rest of that goes, and I'm sure you would, maybe in another issue. I don't know.
Yeah, I would like to see more of them too. I do like. There's one bit when they're walking in the liquor store and Nina's just like divulging the most upsetting like backstory imaginable. She's like, yeah, and then my mom killed herself.
Yeah.
And like it's kind of presented without comment, but you're just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Before you told me that about the dates.
Yeah.
I thought that, so like I was putting my own story together, and I was like so when Nina and Led hook up at the end of it, and then but the issue ends with Harry shows up to the party.
Yes.
And Nina's like, oh crap. I was like, oh no, Nina's the dead body in the trunk. And then you were like, when you said like, yeah, that's 1997, I was like, oh, probably not that.
Yeah, this one's 1980, which you can tell because two guys at the party are talking about Empire Strikes Back.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I like that Star Wars is the time delineator here.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That comes up a lot. Also, the phrase "cool beans" comes up like once an issue for some reason.
They do say "cool beans" quite a bit. Was "cool beans" like? Was that really that big of a thing?
I don't know.
But I think I've still I've heard people say "cool beans."
Oh yeah, it's a thing, but it just. Here it seemed like a point almost.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I was like, damn, this is like happening all the time.
Yeah.
This cool beans.
Yeah. That issue also introduced you to someone who's just named Monster.
Yes, the Monster.
Yeah.
Who's just like this nerdy looking guy who seems to be like the big enforcer.
Yeah. So I wanted to know more about him too, because I love he's talking with the creepy Spanish Scot, and I think that maybe Monster's like, oh, I got to go pick up a loan and kill this guy, and he was like, you want to come along? Like he's going to a movie. Like, you want to come for a ride? I got to go kill this guy. And Spanish Scott's like, nah, I got to do something else or something like that.
Yeah,
Says, no.
you brought it up earlier, but it's very Pulp Fiction-y and how they're just like about like the most messed up jobs in the world, and just like, oh yeah, we're gonna go murder somebody, and it's like.
But I think it also goes to show that when you grow up in a life of violence or you desensitize yourself to violence, it's a lot easier to do things and to have those conversations. Like, there was an interview with this woman who killed a guy, and the guy was saying, you know, you killed a guy, and the way her face was like, yeah, I did. Like, basically that he deserved it. And she says, and the funny thing is that people were trying to, like, psychoanalyze me. Like, why did I did it because it was fun. Or something like that. Like, but she said it basically where you can tell there's no empathy whatsoever in her, where everything's just matter of fact. And I think that's what also this whole, like, series, or like, the entire comic did a good job of doing it, is how, like, even a person who maybe could, depending on the circumstances, grow up in a certain way, when your life is just full of violence, like, not I want to say minor or major, but any form of violence, you eventually normalize the violence, and it becomes a lot easier to then perpetuate violence against other people.
Yeah.
Because for you, that's normal. Like, well, everyone has lives like this, you know, and I think this is what this whole comic did a really good job of showing, where it's like the violence is just normalized.
Yeah, just this black hole.
Yeah.
And like there's a bit where Joey's mom Rose is even talking about that, where she's like, I should have gotten out of here 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But she's still at the same party with the same people and just the same drugs, the same violence, the same everything.
Yeah, because it becomes your normal. And you see even, like, in examples where, like, someone can get hit on the subway, people are like, oh, okay. And they're just, like, walking. Yeah. Where, you know, it's almost like, okay, someone got hit. Oh, well. And they just, like, it's very real. While at the same time it's hyper, like, dramatized, it's also very real.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you bring that up, because I'm only thinking about it now after you say that. I think the violence, the normalization of the violence in it, you do see those reactions of the people that aren't normalized by it. Yeah. Ginny is traumatized by it. Orson is traumatized by it.
Yeah, those are fascinating. I was going to ask if we can skip ahead to the Orson issue.
Yeah, sure.
Backing up the truck where he witnesses Spanish Scot just kill a guy driving by. And then he gets involved with Rose and all that. And he's just like a normal kid. Mm-hmm. Like, he's just got overbearing parents. And, like, they're like, oh, you have to come stay home and see your grandparents, blah, blah, blah. And he goes to this party with Rose, and it's all upsetting. And, like, he realizes, like, oh, my God, the killer's here. Like, and then at the end, he sees somebody get hit by a car. And it seems like this time it was a genuine accident. It's just like this middle-aged woman who looks horrified that she hit somebody. Mm-hmm. But because it's just in his head now, he's been sucked into this. And, like, it's kind of all he can think about. He assumes, like, this was another hit. And he punches her in the face, and then the issue just ends. And it's like, oh, my God. Like...
Yeah. So it does a really interesting job of kind of showing that progression. I mean... And just in the ways that lifestyle affects you. I mean, even look at, we see Joey as a young boy, and obviously we see what he ends up, the first thing we're shown is what he ends up becoming because of what he's exposed to.
Yeah, the stuff with him as a kid is just heartbreaking. Yeah. Just like this small child hanging around a bunch of criminals. Yeah. And they're all nasty. They're all like messing with them. And,
there's one point where they trick him into walking into the room where his mother is having sex. Mm-hmm. That, to me, that was like shocking. To see, because, like, I mean, I'm sure there's comic books that show more than that, and I'm sure that there's stuff that is raunchier. But, like, this felt like wrong.
Yeah, no, it's very wrong.
You know what I mean? Like, it felt like it's something you were not supposed to see. Yeah. Like we were almost in Joey's Joey's position there, and you know what he's going to see.
Yeah.
You know when he opens that door what he's going to see, and yet it's still shocking when you see it. So just wow. I mean, talk about like hitting you. Like that was really.
On that note of skin crawling, the second Jenny issue is number 4, Bonnie and Clyde, where she's running away from home, and she ends up in the car of a man calling himself Phil Barrow, who says he's related to Clyde Barrow of Bonnie and Clyde fame, and he's telling her all this stuff about how they're going to be like, oh, they're going to be criminals together, this and that, and it's very clear this man is creepy. This man is a pedophile, 100%, and there's these awful panels where he's like licking his lips, and he's got this awful smile, and just the slimiest guy ever.
Yeah,
and
there's even the one where he's like looking down at her legs and stuff like that, and you're just like, skin crawling is a perfect way, to describe it.
There's a really terrible bit where they're in a diner, and he says something extremely inappropriate to this kid, and a waitress is there and interrupts, but she doesn't do anything more. Yeah. Like, she clearly knows what's going on here, but either she feels powerless to stop it,
which is realistic.
Yeah.
Because that happens a lot. Like, you ever watch those social experiment videos? And there's this one where, like, there's, like, a guy walking, and the two actors grab this kid and just disappear in an alley with him. And you see this guy walking, and goes, well, that doesn't look right. But he just continues walking. Like, basically, like, something has tipped him off, like, maybe there shouldn't be 2 adult guys nabbing a kid and dragging him in an alley, but oh well, I gotta go to work. And I think that happens a lot, where it's like, out of sight, out of mind, someone else will handle it, I got stuff to do, and then you see some people where, like, they're dialing, like, they're calling, or they actually, like, run in, like, what's going on. But like I said, there's a lot of realism. Because you may want to say something, but it's like, well, what do I say? And also, frankly, that guy disturbed me when I first. Yeah. It's like, you don't know, like, you say something and, like, you'll end up, like, in a dumpster somewhere because, like, oh, I got to take care of you. So there's also that very real fear, too, where if I intervene, what's going to happen to me? Which is sad to say, but that's also human instinct. You want to preserve your own life. Yeah. You don't want to just, like, run in there and, like, oh, yeah. So, yeah, it does a good job of showing, like I said, how violence can desensitize people and how violence can traumatize people. And I think just being desensitized, I think, is a form of trauma.
Oh yeah, like like Joey is very much like a product of a very traumatic environment, and I think the implication is, like, pretty much everyone we're seeing here is who's brought up in a bad way.
Yeah.
I think the line that you're referring to, I think he calls her Scar sexy.
Yeah.
Which is just like obviously creepy and cringy. And the waitress kind of like just makes like a noise, and then they bring the cherry pies in, and you really think, I'm sure you guys thought the same thing. You think this is the end of Ginny.
Yeah.
But then it just takes a turn, and I'm only bringing up the turn because what you brought up earlier about a political statement.
About the war stuff, about the war hero stuff early on.
And I really didn't think about this that way. Are they making a political statement here?
Right? It's revealed at the end. He brings her back to her house and he hands her a campaign pin, and you find out he's running for Congress.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty obvious, like, they're corrupt kind of deal. Yeah. But it still kind of hits you like a brick, and you're like, oh God, this just reptile of a man.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. Yeah. Just absolutely. Skin crawling. Yeah, just disgusting.
There was also a lot of insect imagery in that issue that I was kind of fascinated by. There's a bit where Jenny's like, there's like a bit of a dream sequence where like this kind of mantis-like creature, giant mantis-like creatures eating her.
Yeah.
And then Phil says he has a gun in his glove compartment, but it's rigged with a fire ant nest.
Yeah.
And you just see like fire ants crawling around it, and you're like,
Yeah.
what the hell? Like, I don't know, very strange touch. I'm not sure what to make of it, but I liked the imagery.
I don't know if this is where he was going, and it may be way off, but like with female mantises, when they mate, they eat the head of the male.
That could be,
So like a
yeah.
sexual violence metaphor, if
Yeah.
you see him as the mantis
I think you're bang on there. I think
preying on
that's
her, that's what came to my head, because the fact that that's what happens, they eat the head of the male afterwards.
Yeah. That's probably, that's right on too. And then, you're, again, like kind of going back to what you were talking about, which, is just horrifying to think about. She, what was his name? His name was Phil.
Yeah.
He goes into like a convenience store, and he tells her that he's gonna rob it, but he's just paying for it. I don't think he's robbing anything. And he tells her to be on the lookout and beep the horn twice, and a police officer actually shows up, and she beeps the horn, and Phil comes out, and he's just chatting up. You don't see anything, you don't hear anything, you can't read anything, but they're having a nice conversation. Police officer last goes inside. Man, you would hope that if that happened in real life, a police officer would stop and talk to the kid.
Yeah.
You would hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's also the thing too. It's like, oh, he's a politician. Get out of these situations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also it's not to sound dour, but it's also real with corruption. There's levels of corruption. So corruption within law enforcement, it's so that enables some people where it's like, that's like one of the big things too, where victims, if you go to like a law enforcement officer, like, is the law enforcement officer aware, but especially like, where was I going with? But anyway, so like levels of corruption, how, you don't really know who's in the pocket of this man who's running for office.
Yeah.
And also it's interesting too, because like when you have a lot of victims who, it's sort of like the Stockholm syndrome thing, where they end up really bonding with the person who's victimizing them, and they don't think twice, oh, I got to beep the horn because, I don't want him to get in trouble. It's like, it's very real at the same time as being also hyper dramatized, but it's still very real because that happens. Where victims, like when you have an opportunity to seek help, you don't do it.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say about that is and you guys might have a different opinion. I don't know that Ginny ever saw him as a threat.
No.
Ginny, I kind of thought that she did. That she realized that there's something off.
No,
but
at least how I read it,
yeah.
I think Ginny was just buying into it. I think
okay.
I think she was just in a position where this stuff sounds good to her right now because she's a kid who's been through a whole hell of a lot, and he's taking advantage of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I can look at it through a different lens too, because
because I kind of read it like I immediately saw him as a pedophile. Like
I think the reader is supposed to, but I don't think Ginny does.
Because I kind of read it as that she may not be aware he's a predator to that extent, but I think she's also, because considering what she's experienced, that she may in the back of her mind say, there's something off, but whatever. Like, I'm going to ride with him anyway because right now I'm in this phase where I'm running away. So I kind of saw where like a part of her probably recognizes the danger, but at the same time she's willing to ignore, which happens a lot with women too, where a party was like saying something's not right, but maybe I'm just reading too much into it, and like you just go with the person anyway, in spite of like alarm bells ringing in your head. You're like, okay, that's just me. Like, there's nothing wrong. That's kind of how I read it, where she was aware that something is off, but with her current mental state, she's just along for the ride.
Yeah. First thing he says to her, too, is no one's going to hear you scream out here.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God,
there's
just like, Ginny, get out of there.
There's a pretty dark joke toward the end where he's talking about the election. He's like, nobody even votes in these things. So, nonpartisan political statement here. Vote in off-year elections. They're useful too.
Yes. I forget what was the next issue. Was the next issue the...
Is how I spent my summer vacation.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So we should talk about that, because that is...
Amy Race Car.
Yeah, Amy Race Car. And it starts off where she's talking to God.
Yes.
And it's just her and God in heaven. And her father, she says, can she speak to her father? And she says her father's not here. He's just...
There aren't any people allowed in heaven.
Yeah, what a interesting
and
kind of depiction of heaven.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm totally hands off. You make your own choices. That's what it's all about. Your own choices. And maybe you can make Earth just like heaven too.
Yeah.
But like, he's not helping. He's not letting you get into heaven.
Yeah.
He's just there, and he's indifferent totally.
Yeah.
And Amy Race Car decides to not speak anymore after this, because she says, why spoil it for everyone?
Yeah.
And this little girl, her mother's very concerned, and she's like, and what am I going to do? And a bunch of German doctors come in, and they're like, we have a truth machine that will show the inside of her head. And they put on the truth machine, and they see God, and they all are extremely upset, and her mother freaks out and starts calling her a bunch of terrible names, and takes a knife and slashes her face, another thing linking this to Ginny.
Yeah.
And Amy Race Car becomes the biggest criminal of all time. The #1 bank robber. She kills left and right. She's got a string of lovers. What is this? She has like 7 husbands or something.
Well, if God's hands off, he's not letting you in heaven. Most likely, he's not concerned about hell either.
Yeah.
So.
And it's kind of like this insane flight of fantasy thing where, and like, eventually, like, so I forget the exact circumstance, but everybody finds out. Everybody sees her vision of God, and the whole world's falling to pieces. Like everything's just demented, falling apart. And then the president is pleading with her. He's saying, please, Amy Race Car, please. We need you to give the people some hope. And she comes out and she's like, I lied. Okay, I'm sorry. I was abused, this and that. And tells a big sad story. And then she nukes the world, right?
Yep.
That's it? Yeah. She hits the big red button and nukes everyone and flies away on a spaceship with enough junk food and vodka to become a big fat alcoholic.
Yep.
And she's flying directly into the sun, but there's not enough time for her to become that. Yep. So thank God. That's how it ends.
And those are the last 2 words of the issue. I thought that was such a powerful issue, because the God that she sees is so, I don't know, realistic to me in the sense of like you control your own fate, and that line that you said, make earth like heaven.
Yeah.
And because she can't do that, she just blows it up. Like, that's like how mind blowing is that? You're kind of speechless at that point. And yeah, the last 2 lines where it's just, I think it's just like a white page, and it's just thank God, and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked this. It's just a weird flight of fancy in a book that has been relatively grounded outside of some odd imagery here and there, and like, I don't know, but like it highlights a lot. It highlights how at least Ginny is definitely feeling, how I think a lot of the characters feel, of just like what is, like, what is there at this point. And I don't know. I think it's a very fun way to put that. It's a very funny issue too.
Oh yeah.
All of the newspaper headlines had me laughing.
Oh yeah.
And I just liked the really tropey, like, German scientists with their experimental machine. I like Amy Race Car. I hope we see a little more of her. I'd like more stories.
Yeah, same.
Even though, I guess the whole world's dead. But who knows? Maybe she goes into space. Maybe, who knows? Then this ends on a really, really sad issue.
Yeah.
Where it's 1982. Return of the Jedi's out now. Yeah. And Ginny's dad is like, you know what? I'm figuring something out. I'm not going to be away as much as I was, and I want us to really, like, gel as a family again. And of course, shortly after this, he gets diagnosed with a very aggressive cancer.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just it's awful.
Yeah. Yeah, he says how he wants to, he's going to spend less time on the road. He wants to be with his family more. He wants to take them on a trip. They talk about going to Disney World. Like Joe said, you find out he has cancer, and the artwork in it just depicts him getting thinner and thinner and weaker. You see him throwing up.
Which is such a real thing you witness if you've ever lost a loved one to cancer. You know that how when somebody is dropping weight like that.
Yeah. Yeah, just a very real kind of gut punch of a final issue. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say about that other than it's very sad and very real.
Very sad, very real, very powerful. You even kind of you see Ginny's mother who was very, cold and rough and abusive to Ginny kind of break down and you see her vulnerabilities come out. And then he passes away. It really is. You're hit with and I think that's what I liked about this comic altogether is that while it's a world that none of us know, there are aspects that we can relate to. There are feelings that we can relate to. It's grounded in realism. And it's just it was just a really interesting story. I mean, I don't know if you guys want to rate it out of Ginnies. I would give it 5 out of 5 Ginnies. I mean, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think I'm about the same over here. And to do a little bit of reader's advisory, if you like this, I have a film to recommend that I think captures a lot of similar feelings to this. Out of the Blue, from 1980, directed by Dennis Hopper, starring Linda Manns and Hopper as well. It's a really devastating film, so go in steeled. It's not an easy watch, but I think it's a very powerful piece of cinema, and I think it captures the feeling of feeling stuck in this terrible cycle, in this black hole of violence, and just I don't know. It's about a very disaffected teenage girl who's kind of obsessed with punk rock and Elvis, and her dad, played by Hopper, is a trucker who has been in prison for a while because he drove his truck into a school bus filled with children, and which is an insane thing. The film just opens on that, and you're like, what? And now he's out, and they're going to be a family again. But, her mother is a heroin addict who is very, very casual about her addiction. And, her dad's very clearly a scumbag, and just, I don't know. I'm not selling it well, but it's a great film. They use the Neil Young song a lot. Hey, hey, my. Great movie. Yeah.
So, I'm going to be honest. I had a hard time with this graphic novel because, a part of me was trying to say, are these stories connected? Now listening to you both talk, yes, they are all connected.
It definitely took me a little bit to really put it together in my head, though.
Excuse me.
I refreshed myself this morning, just going through it quick, and I was like, oh, okay, I see the links more clearly now.
And I think, originally, I was going to say, I have nothing to really say. I didn't feel like I could contribute anything. But, so, I think that's going to make me change my rating, because I think talking to the two of you, I appreciate it more than when I read it on my own, because I had a very hard time with it. So I think I will do 4 out of 5. I think originally it would have been a little lower because I didn't think I enjoyed it as much.
This is the power.
There were no dragons in it.
This is the power of discussion, though. That's really cool because that happens to me all the time. Where I start talking about something oh wait, oh wait,
I honestly feel through having the discussions, okay, now I appreciate what it's doing more. And I also think, like, as a medium, and I've said this in other recordings, I don't do too well with graphic novels. I think it's just I just get overwhelmed sometimes by them. But, like, really talking about it, I appreciate it more, and I appreciate the themes that it brings up. Because they're very real. Like, while some of the situations, like, okay, this is really ridiculous, but I think it still touches upon the truth that, like, the importance of sort of stability in one's life, and how instability in one form or another and exposure to violence of any kind can, I mean, there are some people that are I don't know if using the word overcome, because it makes it seem like everyone else isn't trying, but they are able to sort of, for lack of a better term, overcome, and they sort of can break
peace.
that cycle of violence and find peace. But unfortunately, there are people that are never able to. There are a lot of people that fall victim, whether it's you're with the wrong person or like wrong situation, wrong time, and you pay and how those things can affect you later on, how you may not be perpetuating violence, but depending on it, you become a victim of that, and you sort of get lost in that current of violence, and you can't necessarily get out. I think sometimes the justice system doesn't help with that to a certain regard, and at least helping people break the cycle and get out of it. So, yeah, having this discussion, I definitely appreciate the comic more.
Folks, I love crime fiction. No, like, it's able to touch on so much while also, like, giving you those base level pulp thrills, or you're just like, ooh,
Yeah.
like,
And even the political and social commentary it's making, you can almost miss it.
Yeah.
Because it's not like hitting you over the head with a hammer kind of commentary. It's just sort of thrown in there. But like the whole thing about the Korean War and how violence can be justified because, well, they're the bad guys.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what you're doing to them. And I felt that when he was, I was like, oh, I see what you're doing there. But it wasn't like where I felt like now you're preaching to us. It was sort of casually thrown in there to sort of give you context. Well, this is who you're dealing with.
Yeah, this is the world this guy grew up in. His dad bragged about killing women and children to him.
Yeah.
Like, and so.
So yeah, good pick.
Yeah. Thank you.
I great discussion. Yeah. We will see you next time with a different series.
Kids, be careful who your friends are.